What's up, guys, and welcome back to the infamous project. Another nice warm sunny day here in Georgetown, Texas, and today is a Mustang day. Yesterday was Get a 65 Lincoln Continental day, and if you haven't checked out that video, make sure you do, because man, am I excited for that car. Your life can't be all Fox bodies. It can be a lot of other things, and that's definitely one that's always been like up here on the list of priorities. So super excited that I managed to pick that up. But today we're going to be working on what is probably, out of all the cars, that I picked up and I acquired during my absence from Texas, we're going to be working on the one that's probably the most underwhelming. And, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, plain Jane, all original, nothing too eye-catchy, but just an all-round nice runner. And that is this 1988 Georgia Coupe. Georgia its whole life, not a modification done to it, all original, stock air box, air silencer, the cap is in the inner fender, you got the cap on the intake manifold, the coil cover is there, spark plug boot did come with the car, it's just not on right now. Everything is here, everything's original, all the original panels and everything else. The only thing that isn't original on this car is in fact the paint. So it is an original, I think twilight blue, or whatever that darkish blue would have been in '88. The original owner had the car painted, and one thing that I didn't notice until I got up close and personal with it is that it must have seen a little bit of hail at some point. So there's a few little spots here and there that you can see, a few little dimples that hopefully some PDR is going to be able to get out. Man, like, this thing is so OG, this hood light even works, which is few and far between these days. So we got blue on blue. My mistake. There is a Flowmaster cap back, but with the stock H pipe, might as well sound all original. And it's got updated pony wheels, which are actually in really, really nice shape. So this is the car, and I bought this one sight unseen online. Guy reached out to me on Instagram, said, hey, I got this car off the original owner, went through all of the vehicle's history, it all checked out in terms of its originality and everything else. He sent me videos of him driving it, getting up to 70 mile an hour or so, walk around videos, everything else. So I pulled the trigger on it and got it delivered here to Texas, picked up by the transport company, and it's been sitting here since. So my friend Lewis came over to visit, and he was here helping me out. He helped me get the 86 running, and we got the 93 Cobra cleaned up, messed around with the parts car, and that A9P that looked like it's been sitting at the bottom of the sea for 100 years. But he was eyeballing this car. Long story short, he really liked the car, and we made a deal for it. He's been looking for a Foxbody that is clean, that is original, but is not perfect, because he wants something that can be a really nice driver for himself. And he's been looking and looking, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have been looking, and it's really hard to find a car that, if it isn't, your $30,000 plus all original low mile Foxbody, you're getting into some territories and some questionable cars that, are there some good deals out there, good drivers, sure, but at least this one, you really know what you're getting yourself into. And mostly the reason why I had bought it. So what I'm going to do today, I'm just going to go through the car, make sure that everything is what it's supposed to be. And he's not 100% sure. He talked about maybe coming to get it and driving it back to Florida. Just probably 15, 16 hour drive for him. And, OG Foxbody, I'm sure it'll make it, but he just wants to make sure that it's somewhat safe and reliable, and everything else is going to be good with it. Now, If he doesn't end up driving it, well, then it's going to get picked up by truck and go back south of Georgia from the area that the car came from. So I want to go through a few things. We're going to check the basics, you know, the oil, we'll check the coolant, check, you know, our cap and rotor, spark plugs. The one thing that I know about this car that my friend Charles / my automotive curator when I'm not around told me was, I think we have a leaky wheel cylinder in the back. The brake light came on when he was driving it, and I think he said it was wet on the back side of one of these rear wheels. So I might need to jack the car up. We'll check those out. The car did have a flat tire when he did first bring it over to the shop, and he got that taken care of, and it hasn't leaked any air since. With the wheel off, we did see that there was some KYB GR2 struts. Be interested to see what it's got in the back for shocks. So what we'll do is we'll go over those basics, then we're going to move a few cars out of the way. I think yeah, we might need to move the Calypso and the white coupe and the silver Dutch coupe out of the way. Then we can get it outside. I'm going to get it washed up so we can take a really good look at it once it's all clean. But let's start digging into things. First things first, right guys? Order of maintenance. Let's check our air filter. It's amazing to see an original air box, all unmolested. Let's see, do we got a K&N? No, that's a Fram. Oh, that looks actually, that's been changed. That's pretty much new looking. Okay, so we're good there. I'll get that closed back up in a second. Let's check our oil. I'm not gonna lie, I did check the oil before, and then I realized I should be doing a video. So the oil is golden brown. That looks like it was freshly changed. It is a little over full. Maybe when I get the car jacked up, maybe I'll let just a little bit out of the front drain plug and the pan. And not that, you know, it's a horrible thing, but this car probably has somewhere around 140,000 miles. So we don't need to be like over pressurizing the crankcase and, you know, potentially blowing out some older fragile gaskets. So if we look down here, it looks like this water pump gasket has been changed at one point, and hopefully everything is sealed up there and we don't have any leaks, which leads me to say, let's check the coolant. Damn. Can't really see what's going on there. Oh yeah, we're full. Looks nice and clean in there, which is important. Now let's check this brake fluid. Oh yeah, that's down for sure. So we'll definitely check that wheel cylinder out in the back. You can see it's actually running the proper Motocraft oil filter. The individual that I bought the car off of, he was actually, he's a proper enthusiast. He races cars, so he clearly knew what he was doing and put the right oil filter on. Check the clutch fan out. This is important, guys. There's usually a lot of stress cracks on an older, higher mile motor, and I'm assuming this clutch fan has probably been changed. The other reason why I say that is these bolts are actually not the factory bolts here. I don't know if you guys can see those. Looks like just a normal bolt and washer setup. You know, nothing fancy, but that's good. So the clutch fan seems to be good. Alternator pulley is pretty shiny, so I'm going to go ahead and say that this alternator has been changed at some point. Shiny nut on it as well. You can tell our upper rad hose has been changed. Lower rad hose, I can see the sticker hanging off that, so that's been changed. Belt, let's see if there's any cracks on it. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. So the belt has probably been done as well. And looking at our wires here, what are these guys? Uh-oh. just broke the wire separator. Whoops. Oh, so we got some Autolite wires. So the wires have been changed. Pop the cap off. So you got a new cap, new rotor, until all that's been done. New idle air control valve, that's clearly been replaced. And one thing that I did notice, if you guys didn't notice it, this distributor is probably a tooth off. Your TFI module right here, this guy is usually, you know, around the 5 o'clock area, depending on how many degrees of timing. Factories around 10, people bump them up, you know, 13, 14. And if this distributor was in the right spot, the reality is that this would probably be like 20 degrees of timing. So I might go ahead and pop this guy out and move it over a tooth. Gonna have to get the timing light on it. We'll reset the timing, make sure everything is good. You know, you can see somebody has had this all apart and had the timing set. New coolant temp sensor, you can see with the Teflon tape wrapped around the threads down there. So that is also newer. Check our power steering fluid. That looks good. Check our Miller Lite. Oh, it's over full. There we go. Got to make sure your beer levels are correct. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these keys. So everything on the inside is legit. It's all here. It doesn't have a factory radio. That's, what is that? Panasonic, old school. Cover here in real good shape. The tire, the jack, the tire irons down on the bottom there. So everything, again, really, really good shape. And all complete. I know there's a lot of guys that probably love to have all these trunk carpets here, nice, clean, and original like this. All right, guys, so there's the first little bit of an overview. I'm gonna go ahead and pull a spark plug out. We can have a look and see if the plugs have been changed. I would assume that with everything else that's been done, that the plugs have recently been done as well. However, one thing that we need to remember, never assume anything. All right, guys, there we go. Motocraft plugs. These guys look pretty much brand new. The gap looks about right. Everything's looking really good. That's really nice to see. Another rare thing about this motor is, you know, still got the cherry pickers on there. And, you know, obviously it's stock headers. So this thing isn't winning any races, can tell you that much. The motor mounts, which the rubber's cracked a little bit on the backside there and torn a little bit. I would recommend that the motor mounts get changed at some point. I just want to see how dry the motor is, which looks pretty dry. It doesn't look like the valve covers are leaking at all. And the thermostat has clearly been changed as well. See, even got the gasket goo on there. Yeah, everything's dry. Heater core. Actually, that looks like a heater core has been changed. And I'm going to show you guys how I know the heater core has been changed. And if you see the tube that the rubber line is on, it's actually aluminum. The original core would have been copper. So heater core has been done. Somebody's gone out of their way to do it and not just bypass these hoses, which is nice. So again, that is a nice feature. It's really, really dry back there. So that's good. It means lower intake gasket isn't leaking. The valve covers don't seem to be leaking. All the emission stuff is in place. Curious to see. I think some of these AC lines might have been changed, which is understandable. Georgia summers get hot. Let's see. Oh, we got some oil on the floor. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that something's leaking a little bit, but it doesn't look like the rear main area. When I get this car jacked up, we'll take a look and see where that oil is leaking from. It almost looks like from the low oil sender unit area. Cross between the low oil sending unit here, as I suspected before. We'll see if we can get a little bit more of a turn on this, and or the drain plug here. Oh yeah, there we go. All right guys, so we got a little bit of a turn on our drain plug. We got a turn on our fitting for the low oil pressure sender. And you notice I just jiggled this out nicely. You know, you don't have to be aggressive. There's kind of like a locking spring there. So many times people just yank these out, pull the cord, and that's it, they're broke. So be gentle when you pull these out. Snap that back in there like that. Looks like we got new O2 sensors as well. A lot of nice new stuff under here. So everything's looking good. The oil pan is nice and dry. We know we got an exhaust leak in the H-pipe down there where it meets the flow tube off the H-pipe. The car probably sat some time. So you know, I bet you some moisture sat there and rusted the pipe out some. But the underside of this car is very, very clean. A pressure wash under here, this thing would look brand new. Just trying to see which rear wheel cylinder might be leaking. That passenger rear wheel looks fine. That driver's side one, you can see fluid on the tire. So that'll be the wheel I'll be taking off, and we'll get that guy checked out and make sure that is in fact what's leaking. Could be an axle seal, but with the brake fluid being low, I'm sure it's the wheel cylinder. So we'll have a look. You can see you definitely have some fluid leaking here. Tire's wet, and although the tires look good on the outside, the inside. Whew. All right guys, so here's our rear brake setup. Everything looks reasonably okay in here. Even the self-adjusting wire is routed properly. It goes down here to the adjuster on the bottom side. Usually that's off or snapped or whatever on cars that haven't been taken very good care of. The wheel cylinder here looks a little rusty, and I've sprayed everything down with brake clean and thrown some compressed air at it. So anything that, any brake clean should have evaporated by now, and we can see how wet it is on the underside. So this wheel cylinder is going to get replaced. So trip to AutoZone, which means we're going to have to take all of the rear shoe assembly and everything else off. So let's get a new wheel cylinder ordered up, and we'll get this guy done and tackled and bled out, and hopefully we'll have no more leaking brake fluid. All right, so I just finished my part ordering on AutoZone's website, and looks like wheel cylinders aren't readily available like they used to be. Fair enough. Hopefully it comes in tomorrow. If it doesn't, it'll be in Friday. So we will pick up where we left off. in a day or so. So till then, I'm gonna move on to something else.